Hey there, y'all. So I am not gonna lie to you and tell you that this video is gonna be super easy for me because I don't do well with vulnerability. Um, but I'm gonna jump in. So the next video I'll be uploading is one of my favorite chapters of my book. It's on the relationships that have helped me tremendously in becoming free. And so that's chapter 7. Look out for that. You don't want to miss it. It's pretty amazing because freedom is so real, and sometimes it comes so unexpectedly, and it comes through people that you can't imagine how God uses people and the limitations we put on him, because I know I put limitations on God, and I said, your freedom cannot come any way but this, and it was just a box I put him in. But anywho, look out for chapter 7. That'll be uploaded next. It's actually a video that's already done, so I hope you enjoy that. But this one is on the provision and how your faith and how your obedience to the voice of God can affect not only your destiny, but the provision that you receive as God takes you through this process of becoming free. And it's super vital that we be a people that are prayerful, that we are mindful of his word, and that we allow God to lead us. And sometimes that can be very difficult. So God taught me his first voice very early on in salvation. I was in a marriage that there was no comfort in the marriage for me. It wasn't really like a real marriage. It was more like a dictatorship, and I was just called to do whatever he said. And that it was difficult, but God taught me a lot in that, and I'm super duper grateful for that. But one of the main things God was able to teach me is who he is. And that he became such an intimate God to me. Our relationship really just, became amazing. And so nobody can really tell me I don't know the voice of God, because it's like when your parent calls you after not talking to you for 5 months, you just know their voice. And that's how it is with God. You just know. There's a certainty. There is a confidence in that voice. And so as I went through my marriage, and I believe in headship, and I believe that you need to submit yourself to the authority God places over you, because there is freedom and there is blessing in submission. And I will stand on that any day of the week, that if God places an authority over you, you are called to submit to that authority. The only way I would say do not submit is if God is speaking something to you. God is sovereign. God is God and God alone. So do not disobey God for anyone around you. Anyway, so I'm taking the words that God is giving me, and I'm running those by my ex-husband, and looking back like clockwork, he would find a scripture in the Bible that went against the very word God gave me, and he would use that to manipulate and control me. And he was trying, not trying, but he would tell me I didn't know the voice of God. And so it became a situation where I was very manipulated. And I began to question if I even knew God's voice, honestly. I'm in my prayer room at church one morning, angry. I'm angry with God. I'm accusing God. You've forgotten me. If you don't show me you're in this battle with me, I'm leaving him and I'm leaving you. I'm tired of this because I'm so confused. You tell me this, he tells me I don't know you, so what is it? And it was just the frustration of my heart coming out that morning. And I began to kick over chairs in the prayer room. I was so upset with God. And I remember God speaking to me and saying, Angelina, make a vision for me, I'll do it for you. My response was, you're not Baal, you're Jehovah. I've got 3. And so I give God the 3. And my very last one was, of course, for God to make my husband my best friend. Well, in that, the Lord spoke to me and said, stop telling him what I'm telling you. So I began to stop telling my ex-husband what the Lord was speaking to me in prayer. And as I stopped telling him the things that God was ministering to me, my confidence in the Lord's voice to me got stronger and stronger and stronger. And I no longer was able to be manipulated so easily because we know the Lord's voice when he's speaking to us. I don't care if you're a woman. I don't care if you're a child. I don't care if you're a man. I don't care what your position is in the church. I don't care what your position is in the home. If you know the Lord, A, seek him in prayer. B, seek him in his word. You are seeking him in, confirmations that the word he gave you is true. Have people around you that are going to encourage your relationship with Jesus. It's super important that you have a good community, because if you don't, you're going to be easily manipulated. You're going to feel like I felt. You're going to feel like, do I even know God? And if I don't know God, why am I even here serving God in this place? Because I'm wasting my life. And that's unacceptable, because your relationship with God is about you and him. It's not a place. It's about you being sensitive and him being able to guide you and bless you and encourage you and use you to help other people. We're not blessed solely for ourselves. Anyway, so I leave my marriage, and I remember thinking, God let me out. It was God that was speaking things to me. And yes, there were things that I was seeing in the marriage that were major red flags, but it was God. It was the voice of God that said, get out. And I remember telling some people, God told me to leave, and being told God would never tell you to do that. And all I could think was, but he did tell me to do that. And so long story short, I've had a lot of people in my life, and not because they're, wicked or horrible people, but a lot of people tell me that the way I live, the way I get out of boats, or the way that I allow God to direct my steps, or the things that I'm doing, that they're not God. But the problem and the hazard in listening to people around us sometimes is that if we become a people who are more concerned with pleasing people than pleasing God, we're still going to stand before God at the end of our life. And we're going to give an account for what it is he told us to do and what we've done with our lives. And the reason I'm saying all that is because I've seen God provide for me and my family. In May of 2015, God told me to take a lease on a house that I couldn't afford. I knew I couldn't afford it. The numbers didn't add up. I couldn't afford it, but I knew the voice of God. I took that. By a couple people in my life, and they told me, Angelina, you know God, just believe him, trust him. And so I took the lease, and within 2 months of paying that lease, the people that owned the house got foreclosed on. They hadn't been paying the mortgage. And so I had the conversation with the realtor. He said, you're going to have to leave this house because the bank wants it back. I said, no problem. You tell me when I have to go. That was September 2015. March of 2016, I'm getting my first check for real estate. It took 10 months to the day that I got into real estate to get my first check. And the whole time, I'm wondering, did I hear the voice of God? So from September to March, when this realtor came and knocked on my door and said the house was foreclosed on, I didn't have one payment for that house. Not one. And only God knew that. Only God knew what was going to transpire in my life. And I'm so grateful I listened, and that I had a couple people around me who encouraged me to step out of the boat and just trust God. I can tell you multiple times that happened, that in the moment it seemed like, why would I do that? That seems so crazy. And it was really God that had a bigger plan for my life. I'm single parenting. I've never received child support. I'm not on welfare. God has been able to bless my life, and it's come through obedience to him. But I want to tell you that he so strongly put in my heart that you have value and that you don't realize it, and you allow people around you to criticize you. You allow them to label you. You allow them to dictate and tell you what it is that God can and can't do for you. And you know his voice, and he's speaking things into your life and into your heart and into your mind and into the things he wants to use you for. And you need to stop it. You need to stop allowing people to dictate what it is God can use you for. There is no limitation. God is bigger. God is better. He is sovereign. He is all powerful. He is everything that we can imagine and so much more. And I'm telling you right now, God is speaking to you. Stop it. It's irrelevant what other people think. It's irrelevant what other people say. You're more, you're better, because he is for you and he is with you and he hears you. Every prayer you speak, every time you have a meditation on your heart or your mind that you're crying out and you don't think you can handle anymore, he hears you. You're wondering who you are, why he would even care about you. Because you're his. Because he loves you more than anything you can fathom. When you know his voice, you know his voice. He wants to bless you. And that's going to come with you being super obedient. And if there are things you need to cut out of your life, cut them out. Don't be in willful sin. Don't take people's opinions so highly that you're willing to disobey God. I've learned that myself. God gave me a word for somebody that I didn't give the word to. And it was that I cared more about what they thought, about how people would ridicule me, than about what God would have had me done. And I tell you that I can't take that back. And I encourage you to be a people who seek God. You're prayerful, you're mindful, you love him, because when you love him, you'll obey him. And that you allow yourself to be vulnerable to him. I'm vulnerable before the Lord, but I limit my ability to connect with people because I'm so afraid of being vulnerable with people. And that's part of healing. So I had told the Lord years ago that there are things I would accept and there are things I would not accept with my future husband and with my future, life. And I have watched God use the things that I have limited him on to show me that we cannot conceive his goodness. We can't tell him what he's going to use to bless us. He knows everything about us because he created us. And I dare say that there are some women listening to this right now, and you're doubting who you are to him, and you're doubting your worth because you haven't seen the breakthrough yet. And I would tell you to step out and trust that you are who he says you are. You're amazing and you're phenomenal and you're worthy. And I don't know who you are, but you're watching this, and that's what he wants you to hear. You know him and he knows you. Like he says in his word, you will be my people and I will be your God. Be encouraged, but be obedient to him. Come to know him so intimately that he can guide your life and he can encourage you. So I thank you for listening to this video. Thank you for taking the time with me today. If there is a certain subject you want broached on, please put it in the comments below. I would love to be of assistance any way I can. And I just realized that this is going to be very painful in some ways for me, because even with writing my book, there were a lot of nights that it was tearful and late nights, because it's really hard to go back and remember the things that have happened, not only to me, but to my children. So until next video, you guys take care.